Welcome to Common Sense and Consequences, where we sit down with Montanans from every walk of life to talk honestly about what's happening in our communities, at our capital, and in our daily lives. Today we're here with Rachel Dombach, who's the Executive Director for Homeschool Montana, and Lindsey Vroegindewey, who's the Vice Chair of Homeschool Montana and in charge of the Homeschool Convention this year.
Thanks for having us.
So I just wanted to start about how you ladies got into the homeschool world. Were you homeschooled growing up? Was this something just new and spontaneous that you woke up one day and decided to do? Rachel, do you want to go ahead and start?
I would love to. I was homeschooled as a kid. I did some public school actually up in Canada, and then when my family moved to Washington State, we did full-time homeschooling until 7th grade, actually, which is kind of an interesting time to put your kid back in public school. But I had great experiences and played lots of sports. I have 3 younger siblings who all were homeschooled as well. So that was kind of my introduction to homeschooling. And then when my husband and I got married, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do as part of my own family. And so when my husband and I got married, we talked about it, and he's a pretty relaxed and chill guy. And he said, okay, you can go for it. And so I'm thankful because I've heard some horror stories of people that really it's a contention point for family, and so we never dealt with any of that in our family, and we've been homeschooling since the beginning. So my oldest is 20, and so we've been homeschooling from the beginning.
Wow.
And really have enjoyed the journey.
Wow, that's great. It's nice to have a team member who's on board and willing to help make your vision happen.
I certainly don't let him teach spelling. But he's definitely on board, yes.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we?
This is true.
Lindsey, what about you?
So I was born and raised here in Helena and went to public school from kindergarten through 2nd grade when we were pulled. 3 of us kids, and homeschooled all the way through high school and graduation. You know, the big old homeschool graduation in Montana. It was, yeah. So
class of 3.
It was statewide over in Missoula, and we all sang hymns and had gowns, and it's much bigger now, I think. But
yeah,
and then had kids, and then COVID hit, and you realize, they're indoctrination camps, and I thought, okay, I have 3 kids at the time. What is my ultimate goal? And my ultimate goal was that my 3 kids on the other side, when they're 18, they're all serving the Lord. And I thought, okay, my best chance at that is to be the one influencing their education, for them to be with me every day. So my husband was on board, thankfully, and so we were going for it. And it's just been great. And I think now that I'm doing it, even if the schools were awesome, I want that extra 16,000 hours with my kids.
Yeah.
So I would do it. I would do it no matter what.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been fun.
It's hard when we stop and think about when our kids are in public schools, how little time we actually get with them. Mm-hmm. It really puts a different balance on that scale, doesn't it? How much we really get to influence them and speak into them and over them when they're gone the better part of the day. And then you have sports and stuff at night as well. When are you pouring into your kids, right?
And not just stressed, laundry, cooking, rushing out the door, all the things, yeah.
Yeah, the duties. When can you just enjoy them?
Right.
The morning when you're getting them up out of bed and they still don't want to get out of bed.
Right, exactly.
Those moments we cherish. So, Homeschool Montana is brand new.
It is.
I know Montana, we don't have the large cities and quite all the fancy things that other places and people have access to. Tell me what the conversation was starting Homeschool Montana. What was the need there?
It's been an interesting journey, and I don't think we can take credit for really any of it. I feel like that God has been working for a long time. So the Montana Coalition of Home Educators has been around for 30-ish years. And Steve White and a very dedicated group of people led that charge in the 80s and 90s and then even in the 2000s as far as mobilizing homeschoolers in Montana, first of all, to make homeschooling legal, but then also to mobilize the homeschoolers and to take a stand specifically legislatively when we needed to, or when they needed to. This was way before my time, and Lindsay was a kid during this time here. So they needed to take a stand for homeschooling. So that's where Montana Coalition of Home Educators kind of rallied around that. And then I wouldn't say the years since then, the last 20 years have been easy for homeschoolers, but it's kind of hit kind of a bit of a lull. There hasn't been a statewide convention in Montana since 2012. And obviously we are a geographically large state with sparse population, so that plays into it. Specifically, Homeschool Montana, Lindsay and I began talking a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half, now, 18 months, 2 years ago now. And she really had the heart for the convention and bringing a convention back to Montana. And as we were talking, we started brainstorming and talking more with Steve White and Montana Coalition of Home Educators, and wanting to really partner with them, with the coalition, and say, how can we kind of revitalize and how can we build on what's already here? And as those conversations have taken place, they've been really good. But we came to a point where the coalition is going to essentially continue to be the legislative arm, or the legislative piece of Homeschooling Montana. But then there was a group of us that said, we really want to do more to support our state. So we have been in the process of incorporating and creating bylaws and
making it official,
which is a little scary at every step, making it official, but also extremely exciting just to have those conversations around the state with different folks, with different regions. And each region kind of has their own traditions and their own feel and their own culture, because I feel like the homeschooling communities in each area are doing great things. And so the idea behind Homeschool Montana is not to usurp any of that. We want to come alongside and support and encourage the regional groups, and then also to bring back some of the statewide things that have been lacking a little bit in the last few years. Yeah. So,
who was doing the conventions when they were doing them a little bit more regularly? Was that all part of MCHE, or was that up to individual, you just said regional groups, to kind of take it on and plan it?
They did have a convention committee, yes, that was associated with MCHE, but was its own group, and it just dissolved. It's all volunteer runs, right? So where there are not the volunteers, then the events don't happen. And there have been regional conferences since then in different parts of the state. There have been more regional focused conferences, which is great, and we want to encourage that for sure, because you just can't drive. You just can't drive and take half a week out of every year to go stay and be in another place for the convention. So it's a lot of work. Yeah.
So it's great to encourage the locals to, put their own on and then gather statewide,
Do you find that the regional offerings are more tailored to like curriculum type things? Like, I know the ones that I'm familiar with, that I should say I normally hear about around here, are like curriculum swaps. Do they have a lot of offerings as far as teachings and perspective? And do they talk about the core of why people homeschool and the different reasons? Are there like discussions, or are they focused on different areas? Do you know?
That's a great question. So 3 or almost 4 years ago, I became the state coordinator for Teen Pact Montana, and that's when I really started hearing a lot more of what was going around the state. And I mainly became part of a lot of Facebook groups, which is fun and exhausting sometimes, but it's given me a little bit more insight into the different regions. I would say most of the regions have, like, once a year, have some kind of gathering, and oftentimes they'll do like a homeschooling 101 or a here's the homeschool laws or that kind of thing, but it's, I would say, minimal as far as the emphasis from the regional groups. The regional groups are, I think, more focused on just resourcing people. So what comes out, though, of Facebook is all these questions, new homeschoolers, whether they've moved to the area and they don't know, what's homeschooling like in Montana. It's different than in the state I moved from. Or how do I get plugged in? Like, what's the mode of operation to get plugged into homeschooling here in my area? And
probably the number one question on any Facebook group for homeschoolers, though, right?
It is.
The first thing people are doing is, I'm looking at moving here. What do I need to know?
Yep.
Yeah. Right? Where are the good areas
Absolutely.
to live? And what are the homeschool groups?
And she has created a website covering so many details and answers to those questions. It is in depth, and she's really created a resource for that. For if you're moving here, if you're here and you have questions, like, it is a statewide resource for homeschoolers.
So let's just say what that resource is, homeschoolmt.com.
That's it, yes.
Are there a lot of differences in the different states for homeschool rules and regulations?
There are, yes, and this has been a huge learning curve, even for me, because I was just doing my own thing, and I knew what the homeschool laws were in Montana, but as I've gotten further into this, and in conversations with HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense Association, so they support homeschooling across the world, really. They're international, but certainly across the United States, and I have seen just the immense differences. Some states don't even require people to notify the county or to notify any government officials that they're homeschooling. So there's that end of things. And then there's the other end of things, which is they have to do testing every year. You definitely have to notify. You have to do testing every year.
Curriculum.
Yes. So there's a very wide range of what's required for homeschoolers across the country. Yes.
Where does Montana fall on the scope of things? We
have quite a bit of freedom in Montana, for sure. And actually, this last legislative session, there was a bill passed, HB 778, which actually gave more freedom to homeschoolers. It separated homeschoolers from non-public schools, so private schools. So that was a big step for Montana. We are on the freer end, certainly. Montana homeschool law says you basically need to notify your county superintendent that you are homeschooling through ages 7 through 16, because that's those are the ages that Montana law requires kids to be enrolled in school. So we notify the county superintendent so that our kids are not counted as truant or absent from public schools, because the law requires them to go to school. So notify your superintendent, and then we are required to track our attendance. To track our attendance of our kids. This is the only other piece that the county superintendents can ask for. They can ask homeschool parents for a statement of, did your kids meet the attendance hours? And there's no form that you have to fill out for that. If county superintendents ask you about that, you can submit a letter or an email saying, my children fulfilled the attendance hours. That's the second piece. Third, we are supposed to follow or teach our children the subjects that are listed in the laws of Montana, and they're pretty basic.
Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yes. There's the full list is on our website, but there's no. Yeah, that's all it says is teach your children. So,
right.
Which hopefully that's the goal, is to teach them well and to teach a well-rounded reading, writing, arithmetic.
I've never met a homeschooler that was like, I want to do this and not teach my kids, right? That doesn't really.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The fourth thing that we are required to do is to hit the hours. The state of Montana has said that you're supposed to teach, or there's supposed to be this amount of education per year. So they put it in hours. And again, the county superintendents cannot ask you to show that you hit those hours. But yes, yeah. Right. So it is quite. There's a lot of freedom. The government cannot ask for what curriculum you're using. The rights of the parents, homeschooling parents, are right to choose your curriculum, choose your hours, set your hours of your day, and to teach whatever philosophy. There's a lot of different homeschooling philosophies or methods. So, yeah, homeschool laws say that you can do what you'd like to do in regards to those elements. So.
Well, that's interesting because I've heard several people tell me that when they're enrolling their kids in like a quarter time or to be able to participate in some of the activities and the sports, that sometimes they are asked for curriculum, like they need to have it approved or something, or provide some sort of proof regarding their homeschooling with that particular child. So that's not actually required. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not as a homeschooler, but as soon as you put your child into public school and enroll them, even part-time, then you are putting yourself into the public school system. And so it's a little bit of a gray area. And as of right now, it's kind of left up to each district. And sometimes each school, what they ask homeschoolers to do. So I think that there'll probably be more conversation on this topic because the law saying that homeschoolers can participate in sports, and that was in, I think, 2023 actually, where that law went into effect. So it's fairly new to Montana that's actually part of. Homeschoolers are allowed to do this, but they have to meet the requirements. So if there's immunization requirements or grades requirements, then essentially you're putting yourself in the public school system, even though it's not full time. Yeah. And so you do need to follow the same rules as the public schooler. So I think there will be a lot more conversation about this as we move forward because we do want to keep our freedoms, and yet as you put yourself into any system, then you need to follow the rules.
Do you think there's more kids wanting to be a part of those extracurricular activities? Do you see more of that?
I do. Well, I think as homeschooling grows, I think, yes, it all kind of goes together. Because there are some, there's homeschooling associations, athletic and otherwise, across the state. But it does take a commitment, again, because it's all volunteer run. You don't
volunteer run.
You don't pay someone to for all those things.
I mean, really, kind of how it was originally designed, right? Supposed to be involved in your community,
right,
and have the support of your community, and nobody knows your local folks better than you do, right?
Yeah,
it's about building that community and being involved. So, unfortunately, I think. Usually those who are a little bit more apt to volunteer get burned out so quickly because if you're going to volunteer for one, you're going to volunteer for them all, and then you have no time and energy left in your day. But if you have enough and can spread that out, it really can be very successful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
So for Homeschool Montana, is this something that's like just a free resource, or is this like a membership thing? Or you have to join it? How does that work?
That is a great question. We are in process of figuring that all out. We just had our first board meeting last week, and so we would love to. We want to support homeschoolers across Montana. We also understand that there's some funds and there's some ownership with membership as well, but we haven't quite figured that out yet. What that's going to look like.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Right. Yeah.
Well, you have a little time, I feel like. You are putting together the convention. Lindsay, you're in charge of that. When is that?
It's April 16th through the 18th of 2026.
And where is that being held?
The Delta Colonial Hotel in Helena.
Here in Helena?
Helena, yeah.
Okay. Love that.
Yeah.
We're in the middle, almost, of the state.
It is a good spot, and I've hosted, or I've been a part of a few other conventions there over the years, so it's familiar to me, which helps. But yeah, really excited about having a location area cities can all come to.
And they have great meeting space. They have a lot of room options. So
We have a lot of need for meeting space.
Right.
Yes.
right. It's so much easier when you can have your own room and your own setup to do some of those events and classes. So you have speakers, I'm assuming, coming?
We have.
Do you have a lineup yet?
An incredible lineup of speakers coming. We've gone big because this hasn't been done in over a decade. And it's kind of groundbreaking for us with the Homeschool Montana, statewide resource and our mission to unite Montana families across the state. We're really going big with this one. So we have Heidi St. John coming. We have Zan Tyler coming. And if people don't know, when Steve White with MCAG was fighting to make homeschooling legal in Montana, Zan Tyler was being threatened with prison and fighting to make it legal in South Carolina. And those two actually worked together back then and, met at national meetings, and they will be reunited at our convention, which will be really incredible.
Exciting.
And then Michael Ferris is coming in as well, who founded HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense. So we have a special needs expert mom coming, Dana Wilson. We have Abby Ranella coming, who speaks at a lot of homeschool conventions. And Steve White, of course, will be there. And Chuck Black is coming over from North Dakota. He's a popular speaker, author. So we have a full lineup, I think. Oh, and most recently, there's a kids podcast called Real Cool History for Kids. Angela Odell runs it. She also writes curriculum for master books. And she is excited to come because next year is the 250th birthday of America. So we're going to do a fun kids program. She'll be here. We can do real cool history for kids, a big celebration. She has a book coming out next year celebrating America. So a lot of fun things for the kids, the teens, the adults, a full schedule.
That sounds exciting. When was the last time we had a state convention?
It was 2012, right?
I think it was 2012.
So some kids haven't ever been to convention.
Right.
A lot of families probably haven't ever been
Well,
to
and
convention,
They
right?
they may not know about it, or they think, all the conventions are happening in the bigger cities and it's
Yeah.
too far to travel. And so a lot of people are really excited to have it here.
Well, it sounds like you have a great lineup, and I'm sure you will be packed to the max. I think the need, the desire to have something that is central for resources is so great. We just don't know where to find things, especially the families who are kind of new to this idea. How do you get started? What kind of groups are available? A lot of parents aren't teachers themselves necessarily. Doesn't mean you can't teach your own children, right? I mean, you're not the one designing every book you're teaching your children out of, right? But where do you start?
And we have Homeschool 101. That's our kickoff speaker is Homeschool 101.
For the convention.
For the convention, yeah, on Thursday. And then we actually put out a survey several months ago explaining that we're looking at doing a convention and asking a whole bunch of questions. What are your struggles? What are you looking for? What would be helpful? And so we tried to just gauge the whole convention around, like, what are families needing? And it was Homeschool 101. And it was in the middle kind of, how do I know I'm doing it right? I have unmotivated kids. What about burnout? And then on the tail end, it was a lot of high school. What do I do for transcripts? How do I make sure my child can get a job, post-graduation? What do I do about college? So we're actually focusing on all of those points. We're covering the whole
You
thing.
catered to speakers.
We're covering the whole thing.
Yes.
To exactly what people needed.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Then those, just off the top of my head, those would probably be it as well. Transitioning in and transitioning out, very different.
Right.
That 101, very different kind of information than, okay, well, how do I launch my child now out into the adult world on their feet, and
Yes.
what do they need, and documentation, and what's the testing, and how do I sign up for it? And there's a lot of different pieces for that. So good. That's great. So is this convention open to anybody, or do you have to be a registered homeschooler, or Can grandparents come if they're teaching their grandkids?
Of course, everybody. Yeah. And right now we have an early bird registration rate for singles, families. So if it's just a mom coming, if she's bringing the whole family, there's discount rates right now. But yeah, we absolutely welcome grandparents. I mean, it's great to have them. It's great to have, the pioneer homeschool moms and dads as well. So we're open to everybody.
Probably a great conversation in the halls.
Actually, we are going to make it a little bit more than just in the halls. We have a freedom panel happening. Let me think. It's Friday night, I believe.
Yes.
Or Friday afternoon. And we are going to have a panel of four: Steve White, Zan Tyler, Heidi St. John, Michael Ferris, talking about what homeschooling looked like and the battles that were hard fought from the 80s up until now for people who have no idea how we got here. And then it's just going to be an incredible panel. And I was so excited to have those four freedom fighters, coming for it. And then we're also going to honor the pioneer moms and dads who showed up at the Capitol in the 80s and 90s to protect our freedom to homeschool. And we're going to be interviewing them between now and then, create a little video of, asking them some questions and then invite them to that evening so that we can honor them at the event.
Wow.
So it'll be pretty incredible. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you mentioned what's been hard fought. I don't think a lot of people have a good reference for that without going through some of that. When you're striving to keep the freedoms that are your God-given right, and to be a parent, making decisions for your children. It's so tense and nerve-wracking, and to have to go up to the Capitol and learn a whole new process, right? New process for most of them, and get up there and speak and really fight for what matters for your family. I don't think a lot of people have that reference today.
And they showed up in the winter by the hundreds in the droves. I think that was 91.
Yes.
I'm in the process of trying to track down the visitor registry, so we have the names of the people that showed up. But also back then, there were no cell phones. There was no mass text.
Right.
No mass email.
Yeah.
And so
it was moved to a different room, run.
or just to get people to come to Helena. Steve had a phone dedicated to an answering machine. So people would call in and he would record a message on his answering machine, this is when it's happening. Come to Helena. We're rallying here. The hearing's here. And that is how that call number, that's how information was spread.
By answering
and
machine.
hundreds came. Wow. They dropped everything and showed up. It was incredible. I was there, faint memory. But those are the pioneer families that we want to talk to, that we want to bring in and really honor them, because it was hard fought.
That's uphill both ways.
Right? Yeah.
The struggle.
Great story.
I mean, I'm thinking if we don't get reminder texts, you have to have so many reminder texts.
Yeah,
to show up
just to
at the
get to the
dentist.
dentist.
Show up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we require so much. It's you to call in and listen to a pre-recorded voicemail.
It's like getting the ski report, right? 3 new inches of powder. Yeah, it's incredible. I like that story.
Wow. The battles. I'm really excited what the conversations that'll come out of this. I know the battles that have been fought and the ground that's been taken. And I hope give people a better perspective when they hear the bills being presented in our legislature now. And some of them, I think they're all well-meaning, but some of them may be a little bit giving ground instead of taking ground.
Yeah.
And to have the perspective that we're not going backwards, and this is why.
Do you want to cover how we're going to take care of that?
I would love for you to talk about it, but because we do have an exciting project for that. But I just agree with you so much that it's so important to look back and see where we've come from, and to look around, because there are some very significant battles that were fought just this last legislative year, not in Montana, but across the nation, where rights are being taken or tried to be taken away from homeschooling. And And I think it was kind of a wake up call, like, oh, wait a minute, this is not just something that, we can take for granted. We have to be vigilant about our rights to do this. So so Lindsay, tell us about the project that
it's happening
that you
there.
are.
It can easily happen here.
It can, yes.
So since we've met and have talked to Steve White with Montana Coalition of Home Educators and realized the history that's there, and the little history that I remember and, anyone else knows, we wanted to capture it. We wanted a way to capture it. It's all in Steve's brain. He's got the history and the stories of how we fought the battles. So we're capturing it in a historic booklet that will have the history, what homeschooling looked like before 1983, what it looked like after, and then we're actually going to list every legislative session since then and the bills that were hard fought, what we were up against, how we took care of them. And then in the back, we're going to have an appendix on things to watch for in legislation. It's not just the word homeschool is there, watch for it. There's so many other things that Steve has educated us on and is continuing to educate us on. Red flags. Well, this could lead to this, could lead to this. So watch for this. So we really want to capture that. We want to capture all of his brain and how he does this in a book. And then also have a list of the organizations involved. Who is for us, who is against us, as far as school associations and HSLDA and the resources we have. So, and this document will be reprinted after every session. So it's going to be incredible to have
so
this.
Exciting.
A
it's
resource.
like a blueprint.
Yes.
Yes.
A whole history of the entire process. That is so exciting.
And we'll
to
have
me.
laws. We'll have the laws in there. So if you're brand new homeschooling in Montana, and our goal is to have it sponsored so that every attendee at the convention can have a copy. But it really is like, here's what you need to know. Here's the fights that were fought. Here's how we protect our freedoms in the future. Here's the resources you need. So we're really excited about that.
Well, and I love that would be available because especially when you're looking at bills and deciding whether you're for or against it, I don't think people realize how most of these changes come in small increments.
Yes.
Changing the definition, allowing this, excluding that. These small little minute changes where you're like, that's close enough. But then the next session, I mean, I was reading one here not too long ago. I won't name it all, but the discussion where it came down to shall or may.
Yes.
One word
Yes.
made all the difference.
Someone mentioned the other day that this book, I hadn't even thought about it, could be a resource for legislators. With term
that
limits.
was my thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And there, if you go in there and you haven't been around for 20 years, you don't know the repercussions. And unless you have someone like Steve White to educate you, this is opening the door to, this, and this. But to have this booklet could also help them with the history.
Right. And as they're hearing the legislative bills and the changes,
Yes.
they can thumb through that and say, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Here's the history with that. Maybe I need to ask some different questions
Yes.
before I vote. That's so exciting to me.
It's so exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would definitely like a copy of or 7.
And I'm hoping to get some forwards written, by Steve and by Mike Ferris, real freedom fighters. So it'll be a really neat project.
So where are you in the process of that? Is this like
First draft.
Oh,
yeah.
so that's quite far.
We have a great partner on our convention team who's taken this project on. So she's doing an incredible job, and we're really excited.
So much research.
So much, yeah.
Are you describing just the process, or do you have like testimonies from different people involved? Like, this is what I didn't know I needed to look out for in there, or would that be something separate?
Like testimonies from
the people involved with that legislation. When you're following a bill and you see the different dynamics and the conversations, well, we met with A, B, C, and D.
And that maybe changed their...
And then maybe it changed,
yeah.
Or maybe there were other factors that I didn't realize were at play until afterwards.
That's a really good idea, because I think that Steve would have resources on the history of that, people he'd worked with. And after he explained, hey, here's what can happen from this, they changed their perspective. Yeah. That's a really good idea to get some quotes in there on how the history and understanding the process could change.
It's so much different than people realize.
Yes.
So many things under the surface at play that we don't necessarily take into account because we just don't know that they're happening. So I think this is going to be an amazing resource. I'm so excited to see the final draft on that and to go through it. I think going forward, I just see that as being an amazing resource. For our legislation and even for other states to learn from.
It's true. Wyoming needs one. I know a story that could kick it off.
Well, maybe this will spark them. Maybe they'll get one and say, wait a minute, we need this too.
That's right.
And then we'll get more volunteers.
I hope states, just think if all the states did this and they had that resource, the historic guide on how they got there, that would be pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and to log it going forward. Mm-hmm. How amazing.
Right.
Well, this sounds just incredible. Another great resource available for all the homeschoolers, whether you're starting out or you've been doing this a long time. Maybe you need to freshen up and try something, a little bit different. What a great resource that you're creating to fill that need in Montana. I love that. Well, I'm excited to see where this takes you guys this year and to hear how this convention goes. You might see me there. We'll see.
We will. We will for sure see you there.
I'm gonna rally up some folks to go, and I'm really excited for you guys. So one more time, I'm going to tell you it's homeschoolmt.com is the website resource. So you can find all of the things offered on there, as well as the registration for the convention, April
16th, 17th, and 18th.
Thanks, ladies, so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and we'll see you again.
Absolutely.
Thanks.